Hello, welcome to SHOWstudio. Head to Head is moving with a men's fashion circus to Italy. And I have the lovely Dal Chodha with me to discuss, to go head to head about what we thought. We had some discussion already before that.
Yes, but I'll forget that and we'll start again.
Well, actually, it's going to be interesting if we disagree on some things. But anyway, so done London, it's the time for Italy. People start saying, oh, Milan, but there's Pitti before, and Pitti is becoming interesting with, all those guests.
Yeah.
People at Pitti that are always chosen very well. So you were there, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell us about why project at Pitti?
I can. But I think what's interesting is, again, you're right. When Milan comes, people kind of roll their eyes and go, oh, because traditionally, I guess, people assume it's the schedule. It's the schedule of shows that you have to attend for commercial reasons, but also the classicism and this kind of, I guess, commercial aspect to almost everything that happens there. And I think
it's after London, which doesn't
And it's
help.
after London, so you have that massive contrast, I think. And now, as London is going back to some of its more eccentric roots, which is very exciting, it makes something like a place like Milan even more kind of strange, really.
And yet there's Prada in Milan, but we will go back to that. But also, it's becoming smaller and smaller. It was, 3 days?
It was really small.
Between co-ed and people that have moved to Paris and people that have disappeared. It's really... And also, maybe what Milan lacks before going back to Florence is new, fresh talent.
Yes.
When we want to do a panel on something new in Milan, it's like, what?
What to do? So the season for me, anyway, is, obviously we started with London, but in terms of the moving around, opened with Y Project. So that was a real high for me.
Florence, Pitti.
In Florence. I think what Glenn Martins does has always been very intriguing because it seems like it definitely does propose a new silhouette and a new shape. It does sometimes mean that the clothes may be quite difficult to translate onto everyday... To wear, maybe. I've not tried anything on, but you have, right?
Yeah, it's not the easiest.
It's not the easiest. But there's something about that challenge that I really enjoy, and it feels like fashion with a capital F. But what Glenn did when he moved with this show is really step up in terms of the fabrications and also in terms of the references that he was drawing on. So there are lots and lots of examples and riffs on very, very classic Italian clothes. So you've got, the classic kind of version of a Max Mara camel coat with his twist. You've got these kind of classic pinstripe tailoring or dinner jackets or evening suits that he's given his own twist. So the lapels are kind of ruffling down the front like waterfalls. You've got the usual kind of shrug on shoulders and the bomber jacket hybrid things, which are actually, they've now become his signature. And I think he's been doing this for a while, but relatively silently, for at least 5 years, I believe. And it was really nice just to see, and just the fierce elegance of it. And I think it's not necessarily a collection or a designer we'd normally call elegant, but there was real elegance here to some of these pieces. So that was really exciting.
I think there is some elegance in his creativity, and I think that, it happens quite often when young designers, they're called as guests, so the star of Pitti, they step up.
Yeah.
And they propose more than what we are used to see. So, I think it was a good collection. There was a lot of women's wear, which I thought was interesting. Probably I liked it better than the menswear. Am I wrong?
His woman is easier to understand, I think.
Oh, do you think it's easier
you sort of get her a bit more, and particularly within the setting of the show, which was in the Santa Maria Novella. We were sat kind of in the cloisters, and the whole show was lit by torches.
Have a word on that. Yeah, the show was particular because it was all in the dark, and so every viewer, every member of the public was given a torch, and so they really had to look at what was going on and not being busy taking photos or Instagram. If you wanted to see it, you had to, target what you wanted to see with your light.
Yeah.
And apparently it was quite beautiful to see everybody doing the same
Super
thing.
Beautiful, because everything was bouncing off the kind of ceilings, but also it really did allow you to zoom in. Yes, absolutely, because we were very close to the models as well. It wasn't a very wide catwalk.
Yeah, it was.
So they're just kind of, where you are, that's where the models were, and I was sat here. So, but it was really intimate and also very magical because you had the starry sky, and it felt very special and very Florence.
And also Santa Maria Novella is one of the Florentine churches that are important.
But I think this idea of stepping up, I think, is very interesting. You're right. When designers move, they have to. And I don't think enough designers get the opportunity to step up and to be challenged a bit.
Yeah.
Particularly with London, we've seen the sort of slight skinnying down of the schedule or the problems with it. I think that part of that is because, what are designers kind of doing it for anymore? I think everyone is questioning that. And in Milan, they're always doing it for those commercial reasons.
Well, but that's interesting what you say, because for me, stepping up for the young designer, and I've seen it a lot in London, and we said it in our head-to-head before, is that people like Charles, Jeffrey, you could see, I know he's good and he's very good for me, but you could also see his materials, the tailoring, there's this maturity that is coming, and what I like in Milan is that Prada is good. There's nothing to step up. She can be more creative or less creative, having more ideas, being more upset, whatever, but it's Miuccia. And we don't have a Charles Jeffrey or a Craig Green in Milan or a Glenn Martin.
But also what's fascinating is your gesturing when you say it's Miuccia. And this is the thing that happens in Milan, is that every single designer basically that shows that is one of those.
Yeah.
And so your ability or our license to criticize or to actually say, maybe that wasn't great, that went a long time ago. Mr. Armani, even Dolce with their scandals, all of these designers are those ones that you just we sort of accept them with all of their flaws. And I think there's something about Mrs. Prada who she can basically do whatever she wants. And I think this season there was a direction shift, which I don't think has been there for the last couple of seasons. But it was very interesting to hear her backstage talk about this idea that we're in an angry world and she wanted some lightheartedness in her own way.
Yeah, but she's angry.
But there's an anger there. But she chose to kind of go through this Frankenstein kind of comic Hollywood pop lens, which resulted in these faux fur kind of trapper hats and, the jumpers with the sleeves, also in the fake fur. But I
also think there is something very modern about her tailoring, I mean, Prada has been, for men, has been doing tailoring forever. Yeah. And, the Milanese white-collar boy has been wearing Prada even before it was trendy abroad, But I think she is succeeding, and why would we doubt it, but she's succeeding in proposing a new silhouette, the cut of the trousers, the shoes that go with it, the styling of it. Don't you think so?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite interesting. It's not banal. But it is what it is. I think it's a really good example of what it is. But it doesn't necessarily make me question. I always find it very interesting how certain designers will be, we put words into their mouths. That's part of our job in lots of ways. And I find with Mrs. Prada, it's very much like, oh my God, she's making this dramatic statement. And I don't know, because there's a lot of product in here. And I think that's what's really good is Prada and the team that work on the show are really good at hiding all of this incredible product into every single look. And when you go and look at it at the Risi in the showroom, you actually realize that something that looked like a boiler suit is actually a jacket tucked into a trouser. You realize there are 17 belts on one outfit, there are 16 bags.
That's what they sell a lot.
25 chokers. And you start thinking, wow, all of this it's super smart because it creates something very, very desirable out of multi-levels.
But you said it is what it is, and that's their job, especially in Milan. Actually, I think one of Miuccia's job is to push boundaries, to push it forward.
Yeah.
And so you don't think she did it here?
No, I don't. No, I don't think any of this. Yeah. I guess what I'm looking for in our flattened kind of world, I want more extremes. I don't think this is saying anything. I think it's almost quite bourgeois to kind of say that, wow, this is really challenging, when we have people making many more dramatic statements. It doesn't have to be about gender, it doesn't have to be about race, it doesn't have to be about any of those things, but I kind of need more drama. And that doesn't diminish what a fantastic collection this is. But I wonder if the space for talking about fashion needs to go towards those designers that are really actually saying something, not just trying to maintain businesses that were established a long, long time ago.
Well, but it's a little bit that, and we see it a lot in Milan, and we're going to talk about Versace in a minute, and I have something in that direction to say. So what's the solution? I mean, these people are getting older, and I'm not saying it in a negative way, because experience and talent like Miuccia's is essential, and she still is someone who, does fashion with a capital S, but Milan is at high risk of not renovating itself. And also I think I mean, there was a time where there was the Alessandro Michele effect on Milan. You know, now he doesn't do men, so there's not. You know, he made everybody trying to find a solution and to move. So this long weekend, it shows that there's no stimulus, if we can say it like that.
Yeah, yeah. I think the ones that, you know, the kind of rock stars, I guess now it's you know, Marni. Francesco Rizzo, I think, is, you know, the one.
It was a very joyous,
but what
joyful show.
Super, but I think what
happy show.
A lot of it feels like it comes, the energy of London.
Self-assured.
Though comes into this for me. It feels very London in its kind of eclectic mashup of volumes and textures and prints and everything. But there's this kind of quite wonderful
That's why it's praised more by foreigners, foreign journalists.
I don't know. I think,
they
exactly.
don't understand it, probably.
No. But I think what's great about it is that it feels like it's saying something. It feels more radical in.
I think it's fine. I mean, I'm saying something that everybody else has said, so sorry. But he found his signature, and he's now get into Marni without being too far away from what we expect from Marni. But it's his Marni, you know. It's good. It's very. I think the guy is very happy. He's in a very happy place, and this was probably my favorite show.
But I also wonder that in some ways Marni is a little bit. It's completely new to an audience, because I think Marni before was quite an small brand. You know, it didn't advertise. It didn't really shout about itself. There weren't that. You know, there were stores, but it wasn't. It was quite quiet, and it was worn by and adored by a very particular niche group of men and women. And so, you know, along with this kind of this reinvestment and this kind of the leaving of the founder and this new expansion and the launch of a fragrance, things become more serious. But I feel like Marni is really new to lots of people. It's almost like a new brand.
But do you think it will have to cater to a little bit more than a niche now?
No, I think that this is the new niche.
Yeah, but I wouldn't want Marni to be a 5 billion brand and lose its particular flair, you know, It is still a little bit niche.
But I think fashion's lost that nicheness anyway. I mean, I don't think that's gone. This is going to be, you know, no one's doing this just to sell maybe 20 pieces of each, just to keep it niche and cool.
Yeah, but there's still the difference between, you know, trying to sell a lot to many different people or having a point of view. And I think he has a point of view, and that will divide. Not everybody likes that point of view. You know, it's not only layering in a modern way or adding a little bit of streetwear here and tailoring there. There is a point of view here. And also in the attitude. And I wasn't there, so I can't talk about the music, the atmosphere, whatever. But it's Marni. It's the new Marni.
I mean, it was a very tightly packed show. We were all basically in this box surrounded by speakers, so it was quite uncomfortable.
Oh, was it? Okay.
I'm not uncomfortable in a way that we should be on velvet chairs, as in the atmosphere was really tight and packed, which in itself was quite exciting. But I did also have a puppy on my lap during the whole show, so I was slightly distracted by that.
Who was the...
JJ Martin, shout out to the pug. She is an Italian journalist, has her own label
I know
as well.
JJ, she's fantastic.
So JJ has
she came with a pug?
She came with the pug. And
but why did you have to take care of the pug?
Because we sat next to... We didn't have to, but, you know, come on, you put a pug in front of me.
So JJ showed up with the pug.
JJ showed up with the pug, so we were trying to make sure that the pug wasn't frightened by the very loud speakers that we were surrounded by. But I think what you felt here in terms of show venue also is that energy. It had this kind of pulsating energy, and so many of the shows, particularly Milan, just don't have that. They've got this kind of big, glossy, cold.
Very Milanese, you know. I know, of course, I know the culture of Milan because I come from across the border, and we call these, you know, bits of northern Italy and also southern of Switzerland like pre-Alpine, and there is a little bit of a, even if they're Catholic, a Calvinistic approach to life. So you're happy, but you don't show it too much. It's not the real Italian like he would be in Rome, and they call Roman vulgar, you know, whatever. So, and I think, you know, the Armani, Prada, I mean, she's very severe in her attitude. So there's no, and that's why I welcome the happiness that this show gave me. I wasn't there, I didn't feel the atmosphere, but it came through the photos to me, and it came through the colors and the juxtaposition of prints and a little bit this weird, like it's so wrong that it's perfect.
Yeah,
you see what I mean?
Yeah. You also mentioned kind of where's the space for new designers. I think, Sunai have for a long time.
Yeah, we covered
years,
Sunai last year with a panel because
George loves
we
it
needed
too.
well, they're very good, and we needed to cover a young designer.
And it is really good. And a lot of people who miss the old kind of Marni aesthetic should come here because you really do get that kind of play in volume.
Well, I didn't think about that, but you're right.
Yeah, this is giving you.
It's a little bit less bonker.
It is less bonkers, the colours, but there's something really charming about the two of them who are just really interested in building this up slowly. It's not.
They say what Vedman was saying at the beginning. We want to do clothes.
Yeah.
We want to do clothes that people wear.
Yeah.
And we want them to be modern and to be fresh, but they are clothes.
Yeah.
No gimmicks, no nothing. And they're doing well. Apparently, they're doing well commercially as well. And they're lovely people.
Yeah. Great.
Two lovely people, yeah. Have you met them?
I think it's, I have. And I think that's what's also quite nice is that the clothes kind of, they feel youthful. And that's something you don't really find in Milan much. You don't find youthful fashion. You find kind of well-honed, well-oiled machines, and you find good tailoring and all of this kind of generations of craftsmanship. But sometimes those things can really labor the point a bit too much and make the lightness and joy of seasonal fashion disappear.
That's very well said. And you know why they called Sunny, I call it more than Sunai, because they said it's about sunshine. It's about the bad way that Italian pronounce sunny, Sunai, and so there is the idea of light and sunshine and simple happiness in it.
Yeah.
Which is not very Milanese austere, it's not Calvinistic at all. It's much more open.
Yeah.
Mind. But I would like to have a little chat about Versace because it was a very weird show to me.
Why?
It was, well, I thought, and I don't want to go into the, Capri holding, buying it and whatever, but I thought it was probably, that was the genius of it, but it was full of product, as you said before about something else. It was full of layers, and it was trying, for me, too hard to jump on different kind of trends, to make sure that it was, ticking out like, the layering, the print, the harness, the leather, the whatever, now I don't remember, but we even did a panel on that. And I didn't dislike it, but I didn't see the self-assurance of Donatella to give me the butch boy, like it or not, it was this strong man, with big muscles and glossy skin and half naked. You know what I mean?
You wanted Dolce.
Well, but that's been, she owned that.
Yeah.
And suddenly, of course there is some Versace in here and we're just seeing it now, but there's also something weird. Like there's also, okay, I want to sell and I want to sell to many people, and so I go to a more refined man, which I like better. I like more. Do you see what I'm trying to say?
The Ford logos on things really, I found that really strange. It was her first car, was a Ford, so why not? And there were a lot of these weird logos on things. At Sakai, for example, had a Bar Italia logo, so Bar Italia, which is a very famous coffee bar in Soho in London.
Yeah, I love, in Fritz Street.
And Junior Watanabe had, a logo of Italian pizzeria in Milan
not a logo,
on a t-shirt.
that's a collaboration.
Well, it looks like a logo.
I know, but there were...
It's painted as a collaboration.
There were entire garments covered with just the logo of Ford, which was a bit weird.
Is a bit weird. Do you think any of us will ever agree on what we want Versace to be, though? Because I think it's one of these labels. What's that?
Well, maybe men's, it's more difficult for me to answer. You're right, but can I tell you what we want to be Versace as a woman? And I'm not a Versace, you can imagine it's not me, but I applaud Versace to be this glorious, uber glamorous, uber red carpet brand that makes you feel like $1 million sexiest person on the planet. Suddenly it becomes dressed like this. It's not Versace. And I think here, apart from now we're seeing the prints of, also as usual, as she's been doing in the past years, this homage to Gianni and taking out the prints, which I think it's very good. But then there were some looks, it was like layers of trends.
Yeah.
Do we want that from Versace. I'm happy if you disagree, because I want to be wrong, because I really love Donatella.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't, because I think in the last year or two, the brand has really given us what we want. I think it's really paid attention to the resurgence of archive Versace images and prints and pieces online. And it really feels like someone in the marketing team is involved in the design. And I think that's probably where some of your criticisms might come in.
Yeah, be
in
careful,
terms of it feeling a bit too heavy-handed. But I think, listen, every brand should probably do that to some degree. Should is probably not the right word, but
I see what you mean. Has to.
So maybe there's too much of a heavy hand on the codes of the house, which is the term I loathe. But I think there's something about this that it feels very what it should be, which is why I am less...
Can we click on that look? You just passed it with the blue sweater. Yeah, there.
You don't want that?
I mean, it's lovely, but that's like, I need to sell a little bit of a cashmere, and you know what I mean? And I'm sorry, Donatella, if I'm wrong. Maybe I totally misread it. But I'm not criticizing it. I'm just saying there's something weird. And I've been in big groups, as you know, and I've seen brands being bought and people saying nothing will change, but then it will change, you know. And
it has to change.
Just don't touch. I mean, Versace has been standing after all the drama and after all that happened, and it's doing well. But
is your issue with that look in particular, let's just say, that
it
exists or that it's in the show?
In the show.
That's a different... That's about
in the show.
That's about editing. Yeah. That's about the styling.
Why is it in the show?
Why is it in the show? Quite. But
do you have an answer to that?
No, I don't. But I think that Milan with its grandeur, the shows are like 90 looks, 130 looks at Dolce. You know, I think this Versace is not as many,
Dolce,
but I think
it's not happening.
But I think
you can try as much as you want.
There are a lot of looks that I mean, all shows could do with a good edit. I think too many people are showing too many things, and I think this is just doing that. So
it just needed some editing.
I think so. Yes, those looks in particular, but I think we could look at probably quite a lot of the shows and cut those more commercial looks, because that bridge between the show being an opportunity for the press to look at something to it being the customers has gone. So of course you have to have more of those looks.
Yeah, it's true, because we used to give a point of view to the press, and then you go in store, especially at Prada, and there's something else in store, which was a little bit annoying for people like me, but anyway.
Of course, yeah.
But then now a show is a public thing, and so you need to give people something to want to go and buy, right?
Yeah. That difference from when we'd watch a show and then go to we wouldn't even go look at the commercial showroom as press. But now the two things are the same.
Linked.
They're linked, you know. And so I guess when you are looking at this, you also want to see the kind of normal stuff. You know, you want to see the nice sweater or the nice jumper. But what that's done is, yes, it's really diluted a message. It's kind of lost that.
Yeah, and for me, Donatella Versace is an icon, you know, is an icon of fashion, is an icon as a woman also, you know, what she's done, what she went through. And again, I don't wear Versace, but I adore her. You see what I mean? And so I was very excited to do this panel. It was the first show after Capri Fund, whatever, Capri Holding. Yes. Bought it, and I mean, people were very critical on the panel, and I was the one probably the least critical, because
what were the criticisms?
Well, the harness didn't go down well, you know, because they say if you want a harness, just make a harness, don't just print it on a T-shirt.
But isn't that funny though, that it's printed?
Yeah,
it has a sense of humour, which Donatella has a sense of humour.
Exactly, yeah. So that was
an actual harness would have been really awful.
My point was more the Ford thing, and then, of course, some PR people told me, you can ask us and we explain to you. But you know, you can explain to me as much as you want. I just don't like that, and I don't understand it, and I don't see the irony, and I'm sorry, I still don't see it.
No, neither do I.
But fine, you know, it doesn't matter. But what I liked was not self-assurance, because that's Donatella Versace, so she has self-assurance, but it was a little bit more, maybe I don't need a suit with a blue sweater.
But I also feel like maybe she's a designer who is better at spring-summer, because the body is front and center.
Yeah,
it's more
good
athletic,
point.
it's sexier, it's just, you know, things are tighter. And I think she does that well. You don't go to Versace for a winter wardrobe.
No, you're right.
And maybe this is why
there's one or
it's
two
tricky.
very good coats, though, overcoats there.
So maybe that's why, like summer is very...
Yeah, good
brand.
point.
And I think we can do that with lots of brands. You can section them off into seasons, And I think there's something about this.
Yeah, Max
she does
Mara is
very well.
obviously a winter brand.
Yeah.
So what else did you bring back from Milan? It could be in general or it could be a brand, but what else can one discuss about Milan?
General, I really like number 21, which I don't think people talk about that much.
No, we haven't talked about it,
Alessandro
and if I have to be
Del
very
Acqua.
honest, I don't remember it, but so let's
Yeah, well, this
see.
is the thing. I mean, it is
Help
kind
me.
of something that is, people don't really talk about it, but it's Alessandro Del Acqua's
Yeah.
label, and what I like about it is that there is always this kind of sexiness, perverse kind of relationship to textiles and fabrics. Actually, we haven't got something since 2014, I think. It's just really always very modern, very young, but still tailoring, still all the codes of Italy, like tailoring and suiting and good shoes and good outerwear and parka coats and all of this, but actually just slightly twisted. And there's something really, always very fresh about the palette and the textile and the show itself. It always feels...
Nice.
Really nice, really nice. And, none of this is necessarily, the sheer knits and the lace shirts. And again, this kind of S&M necklaces. So there's this element of hardcore sex and sexuality, but actually it's peppered through in some actually quite very, very wearable, easy, tailored
Yeah, it is
suiting.
quite sexy, I agree with you.
Yeah, but in a clever way, there's not a lot of skin showing, and his coats are always, his outerwear is always fantastic, and his suiting is always great because it feels young, and it's very hard to do a young suit. And again, I think, you have all of those big Italian stalwart brands that will give you that suit, but actually number 21 has this kind of freshness, and I wanted to talk about it because it isn't often spoken about. It's relatively kind of small-ish.
Yeah, it's not in the mainstream.
It's not in the mainstream.
Many
People don't-
civilians know about that, but how do you have an idea how it does? I mean,
No, I think
is it supported by retailers? Is it
No, I think so. I mean, unless it's
been around for a while? So
been
it
around
must
for a
be.
while, yeah, and it's a very kind of well-attended show. I mean, everybody goes.
Yeah,
but
he's loved also.
yeah. It's just really nicely done, and I think there's something about shows like this and Sunai or Sunny, depending on what day it is.
Yeah, maybe
pronounced
it's Sunai.
differently.
Maybe you're right. Maybe they call it
I have no
Sunai
idea.
because it should be sunny, but
These fall in the cracks of those big, glossy 400 look shows, and I think that's the thing that's feeling slightly, I guess, tiring about Milan as a city. But we desperately need Milan to stay, in some ways, as it is.
well, probably there is part of the population of the world that needs that, especially China. The Chinese, they love Zegna. The Chinese, they love Armani. I mean,
Yeah.
the Chinese, they love a suit that reassure them. So an upcoming Chinese wealthy man will not go to Alessandro Dell'Acqua to have a trendy suit.
No.
But will go to Zegna or will
Yeah.
go to Armani,
Yeah.
and maybe even to Prada.
Yeah.
Maybe Prada is more fashion.
Yeah, maybe. But the Zegna show was great because of the staging. It was in the central station in Milan, so they basically cut half the station off. And that is the one thing, that's the majesty of going to shows in other
Such a
cities.
beautiful building. That
in
station
Milan
is
and
so
Paris, London is, we're just, we're in the Truman Brewery, fuck's sake. I mean, it's not. Whereas here, they just shut half the major, and there's people walking around trying to catch flights and trying to catch trains.
Yeah.
It's just wonderful. I mean, the PR's
She
all
did Westminster Abbey
freaking
2
out
years
because
ago.
It is a bit of a production nightmare, but just the grandness of the station.
And that's one of the most beautiful buildings of Milan,
incomparable. And also the theme of the show was very much about, this major
Traveling.
stations. Exactly, but major
Moving around
stations
of people,
being
yeah.
the mixture of different
Yeah.
people from different places.
So what happened? Were people still going in and out, catching
No, they'd
trains?
cut off. Yeah, round, but they'd cut off.
Yeah,
a section
that's
of
the
it.
main entrance and the big
Exactly.
Scala.
Yes, so they'd
Yeah,
cleared that, but they
yeah.
only really cleared it, I think, 4 hours before the show started. So
Well, yeah,
everything
it's
had
an
to be done
important
really
station.
quickly. But there's something about that I just.
But you really didn't like it. While I didn't dislike it at all, I thought it was right for Zegna and it was a way for Zegna to move a little bit forward. But if they move too much forward, they lose $1 billion worth of clients.
Yeah, I think the individual pieces are very, very beautiful. There's something about the way they come together that doesn't always feel.
Styling? Who's styling it? I read it, but I don't remember anyway.
There's something about the way it comes together that I think just doesn't, it makes it feel very heavy and doesn't make it feel very modern. And also these kind of ski trousers with the straps on, they feel a bit...
Why? They feel a bit why?
Surplus. You know, it's always like, there's always something you want to take off, I find, with a lot of the pieces at Zegna. Although I do love Zegna, which is more active and more...
it's the same designer, same
exactly.
director.
But there's something, but the technical aspect and the colours and everything are always really beautiful. But I think sometimes here it all gets a bit, I'm doing a show, or we need to get editorial things. Also, I do think this kind of rampant production of trainers and, you know,
we've seen
really crazy shoes. And this season they launched this customizable shoe where you could have like 25 different pieces changed, and it just all feels rather tired as a concept. I think that's my main challenge with
So maybe they should stick to what they do best, you know, amazing fabric and amazing tailoring and
I don't need anything more than that.
So maybe we don't need a show with a big production in the railway station.
Well, you know, I think sometimes some designers, I'm not saying Zegna does this, they hide behind that staging, you know, it gives them a lift. For me as a writer, it gives you more to talk about, because sometimes there's not enough to talk about with the collection. So that helps. But here, you know, it really made sense that those clothes were shown in there. But I think sometimes, yes, the look itself doesn't feel like something, doesn't feel modern.
Well, good. So we expect from Milan, first, not to disappear, because it's shrinking shorter and smaller all the time. And I mean, if we will see some men in the women's collection. I mean, Ferragamo will be men and women, Gucci will be men and women. I guess Bottega is doing both together, the first show by Daniel Lee.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's doing...
I don't know if there is a show.
Anyway, but, you know, but I just mentioned Ferragamo and Gucci, which are not really small brands. So looking forward to Milan. Hopefully I'll have you again with me. And for the time being, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Ciao.